All right, all right.
Are we live?
Yeah, we are. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
I'm gonna press start on this. And we are officially live. We are also live on Instagram. Welcome, everybody. Tell us where you're tuning in from as we wait for more people to tune in. Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello.
We are.
I don't have my unicorn mug because I'm on the go.
Oh, I don't have my unicorn mug either.
You have two unicorns behind you.
Yeah, I have a unicorn on my right on this side and unicorn on my left. So that's exciting.
Let's take a moment to share the video as people
tune
in.
I will share that on my Facebook.
Myron is tuning in from beautiful downtown Inner Harbor, Baltimore. Thank you, Myron. Welcome, welcome.
All right. I'm tuning in from Maryland as usual on the East Coast. Dima, you are somewhere exciting, more so than Maryland. So
I am. Which shall remain nameless, but I am. Definitely magical. Just like, wait. Okay. It's just for the backlit, but magical. It's like green everywhere, Mother Nature surrounding. It's wonderful.
You're near some trees, flowers, creeks,
rivers, everything. So blessed, and very, very grateful.
Now you're into actually bird watching or just birds in general. Did you come across any different ones?
So many, yes. And a chipmunk. I had a nice
like in person?
Yeah.
How close of an interaction was this?
It was close. It was close enough. It was just like, I like you. I see you playing around. Just stay there. It was a nice, we had, what is it called? Like, not a staring contest. Like, we had a little eye gazing exercise for a bit, and there was like a true connection there. I really felt that chipmunk.
I'm glad that you were safe. Chip makes me nervous. Squirrels do too, because I just never want to be engaged in some sort of an eye-gazing like whenever it happens, I just kind of freak out and leave because I'm not sure what they're gonna do.
They're just doing their thing. You just watch them do their thing. Why are you being nervous?
They're cute, just from a reasonable distance. That's all I'm saying.
Fine. All right, we see more people coming in. Hello. Welcome. Tell us where you're tuning in from today.
Yes.
We're trying to declutter.
Yeah. Okay. So this is our third episode of season 2, which is pretty exciting. First of all, the time has passed pretty quickly. But it's exciting to just know that we're here, episode 3.
Of season 2.
Season 2, yeah. So I guess we're doing something right or meaningful. So we're gonna keep going. I'll take that as an affirmation that we're on the right path here. But yeah, we're excited. First episode, we talked about the plan, to plan or not to plan, and what goes into all the different factors of planning, your mindset, crystallizing the why, how do we pivot and how do we come up with our plans? And really the theme for season 2, Dima, I think we've decided that it's going to be more of sharing our personal and professional growth journeys, and kind of just channeling the African unicorns as talking about those journeys and experiences from our perspectives, as just Africans basking in this world, bringing in our backgrounds, our experiences, how we make sense of the world, how do we plan. And I know a lot of these conversations we're having as, you know, because you're pretty much my accountability buddy. Because you just tell it how it is. But also it's just like, how do we go about navigating all that stuff? And you're muted.
I realized I was muted, but I was saying it takes one to know one.
Oh yeah.
And I, you know what, just now when we were in the backstage pre-going live, something was bubbling up, but I couldn't really put my finger on what it was, especially in our journey with growth and how we've made that transition from kind of the African unicorns being emphasis on what's coming out of the continent, what's coming out of the diaspora, what's coming out of our community, like the global community, the global Black family, if you will, to it being more about our reflections, our experiences, and tying it into the topic of today. I think this merge came, or this transition from season 1 and what season 1 is about to season 2 was really facilitated because we had pinned down another thing that you and I were working on, which is the no excuses. Mm-hmm. And that was entirely focused on our growth and entirely focused on how we navigate these challenges. And it was at the time when we were on season 1 with the African unicorns, it was a matter of like, well, we started this, so we want to put our attention and intention there. But this is something that is growing and bubbling in the back, and something's going to come out of it. We just don't know what yet. So we had this one thing last year, and we're like, okay, we'll go back to it when we do. But because we pinned that down, I feel like this conversation now, and it's really not ironic, and there was I did not make these connections until now when you were saying this, that I am wearing this, and we got this specifically when talking about this no excuses persona or
yes,
idea that we would be like, no, we have an idea of how we want to grow. We have this pull. But yeah, we have Julie from Puerto Rico. Hello, hello.
Okay. I just want to pause and get you to show your shirt real quick.
Oh, yes, yes. Okay.
Do not disturb my mind, my grind, my whole entire vibe. I dig it.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I dig it. I was just telling Dima backstage, when I wear that shirt, I just don't want anybody to talk to me. Like, can I just have the iPhone, like, do not disturb button right here and just be like,
switch the silent.
This is it. Oh man, but thank you for that tie-in. That was perfect. As we think about the topic for today, pin it, and I'm looking to the side because I have my notes to keep me also organized. So as we think about this topic, really the question which I really liked you posed, Dima, which was, how do you co-create a plan with your ambition? And it was really beautiful, if I can just borrow it, was thinking about ambition as your friend, or as your inner voice that you're getting comfortable just comfortable with and getting to know. And really it resonated with me because in kind of, this is a little bit off topic, but somewhat related, being friends with your inner voice, especially your critical inner voice, where, you know, you have all these thoughts and ideas that are kind of flowing and coming in, and you have this like nagging voice in the background that's like analyzing or constantly just sort of giving the other perspective, whether it's negative or not just so positive, in terms of like, well, I don't think you can really do this, or do you really have all the resources, and I don't think they're really going to respond in time, or this is not going to be that great anyway. But really, how do we just become friends with that voice in a way to just neutralize it or even use it in a way to just empower our journey rather
to
than be
feel it, not to fear it, to feel that inner voice, not to fear it. And again, this was one of the themes of 2020, right? To feel Black and not fear Black, feel what Black people are going through, feel this and not fear it. So when you're, because I feel like with ambition, most people are just scared of what happens when that ambition comes to life. What happens when that inner voice becomes a person, becomes a thing, becomes a project, becomes something you are holding and you are creating and growing, and you don't know what that looks like because it's always inside your head. So if you're feeling it, if you're tuning into it, if I'm treating that voice like I treat you, and I let you walk all over me and tell me as it is and tell me, you know what, I call BS. No, you're being ridiculous. And I'm taking it with love because I know you're saying it out of love because I trust this. We don't necessarily always trust our ambition. We don't always necessarily trust that thing that's telling us, you know, why don't you try going there and dare to dream to that direction? We don't necessarily trust us because we're like, where is it going to take us? But what if this happens? But how does this happen? But when you tell me, Dima, let's try going there, I'd be like, yeah, let's go. I'm ready because I trust you.
Right. But why is that easier? Why is that easier to just kind of like, is it easier to just lean into somebody else and be like, all right, I trust that we can do this together? When it comes to ourselves, it's like, do we even see that as like, I can lean into my, you know, ambitious voice or my inner critical voice and be like, all right, let's do this together. Like we can
really. Level, it's self-preservation because on some level, I know that if you go like, if you're pushing me reaches a certain point and I'm uncomfortable, you're a person, you're a human, you're something that I can cut off.
So it's really the consequence.
I can stop talking. Yes.
I can only blame myself if things go sideways versus when I'm working with you, I can be like, Dima messed up this project because it's Dima's fault. You know what I'm saying? That's easier.
You can't do it with your ambition. You can't do it with what's in your head. You can't disconnect. You can't stop talking to your ambition. You can't stop your ambition talking to you. You can't stop your passion talking to you. You can't stop your inner voice talking to you. You can't stop your inner wisdom trying to tell you and guide you and bring you to a certain. I can stop you. I can just not pick up the call when you call me. I could just change my number. I could leave the country, and then there's no this interaction isn't necessary. So if you reach a point where you make me uncomfortable, not uncomfortable, where you are pushing me to leave my comfort zone, and it's getting to a point where I don't like it, I can avoid you. So it's easier to interact with you because jusqu'ici, tout va bien. Up until this point, everything is fine. Until now, everything is fine. It's the starting of an old French film called La Haine, Hatred. And it's like this guy who jumps from a skyscraper and all the way down, he's telling himself, jusqu'ici, tout va bien. Up until now, everything is fine. Up until now, everything is fine because it's not how you fall, it's how you land. And so with you, it's easier for me to be like, oh yeah, Ines, you know, I trust, I'm good. And if it ever gets to a point where I'm being pushed so much, I'll let it know. And if she keeps pushing, I can just stop talking to you. That's not something we believe we have access to with what's coming from within. And that's why that shift becomes really important. That's why that, okay, let me really take you as a friend and really believe that everything you are doing, you are telling me, you are guiding me to, everything you are sparking inside of me is coming out of love, is coming out of truth, because the truth is already inside of me. And I can trust that. And I can trust that whatever is coming to life inside of me, whether it's an idea, a passion, a thought, an instinct, an intuition, I can trust it, and I can be I can treat it as a friend. I can take it as a friend. I can take it as a mentor. I can take it as a guide. And that's why I say, you know, what would that dynamic look like? If your ambition was a friend, let's take a passion project for you and us. Whatever it is, I'm not going to call it, but like, think of one of your projects. Think of one of the things that you want to be working towards. And this is to all our fellow unicorns tuning in. Think about what that would look like if that project, if that idea were a person. What would that conversation look like? Like when Ines and I sit and talk about something or plan something, things go wild. Like her living room when we were looking at the Global Day of Action for Black Power in November. Do you remember what your wall looked like?
Oh, writing. Papers, Post-its.
Nadia walked in and she's like, what exploded here?
Passion.
Saludo, Alexis. Again, tuning in from Puerto Rico. We have a family from Puerto Rico. Hola, hola.
I wonder, are we getting any comments? This actually would be a good time to see if there are any. Please share your ideas. Share what.
Yes.
Because this is all us sharing our reflections and just kind of also just reminders. I think it's really the power of just receiving those reminders and like renewing that trust with yourself and ambition, because it's really a constant thing, because your relationship with yourself and your ambition, your inner voice it's a relationship. It needs maintenance also, because sometimes at certain periods where things are going right or there are certain challenges, but those are challenges that you enjoy at work or you're working through it, everything is good. It's when we get to like a place where we have to reevaluate things or a slump or trying to pivot, is when sometimes your patience is tested, your relationship is tested at that point. And then you have to start listening to how you're actually interacting with that inner voice. But yeah, so wait, comments.
We are not all our comments so far. Oh, Julie likes my shirt. And Myron said that he used to have a favorite red and black squirrels that he would encounter daily when he lived in DC. Nothing yet about planning. So fam, tell us, if your ambition were a person,
right,
what would you say? So Inas, if your ambition were a person, what would it say?
Talk to me more. That's probably one of the most honest things I've said on this thing. But as I'm sitting here having this conversation, but this is literally like, we're using our journeys to literally channel this show through. Like, I mean, we're pretty much sharing what we're going through. But
we have a comment from Julie. I think it's also a little bit about avoiding the self-accountability that comes with listening to that inner voice that tell us to go big. Truth.
What is it? The saying that we're afraid of our own ambition or shadow.
That was Coach Carter, wasn't it? He used that quote. Our fear is not failure.
Our greatest fear is that we're powerful beyond our imagination or something like that.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. And it's Williamson.
It's kind of when you do something, when you create something or finish something and you're like, oh, wow, that was great. Like you kind of end up surprising your own self as to like, ooh, that wasn't bad. I guess I can keep going. And the power, we've talked a little bit also about the power of affirmations, and into this whole pen it to pin it thing. So, and just generally the power of writing is like how in evaluating our relationship with our ambition and how we talk with our ambition. I think I found it definitely useful to just kind of write things down instead of the way that I see it is like I'm literally sitting there holding a bunch of marbles in my head, whether it's all these different ideas. It's like literally I'm just like holding on to all these things, and I don't have space to even the mental space to keep holding on to all these ideas, plus exercise them or work through them and see how they're going to materialize. And I won't be able to do that. And I know for myself, unless if I actually write these things down. And it helps me, one, to process in terms of just reviewing my thoughts and kind of just seeing what came up on paper. So analyze it, but also think about how can this idea grow legs? But it's not until I actually see it on paper that I'm like, okay, so here are all the different, now my brain is going into like a million different directions because I'm seeing something tangible literally on paper, and I'm thinking about all the different ways that I can take it.
Yeah.
And that has freed up some mental space in my head so that I'm able to even take the next step into like brainstorming and even giving it and going into the how even deeper, into how this idea can materialize. And I think we don't, a lot of the times we skip that step or don't necessarily value it as much into writing it down.
For many reasons, but I do want to take a pin here to tie it back to really one of the goals, one of the missions, one of our objectives with this show, with African Unicorns, in terms of reclaiming our narrative, in terms of redefining this sense of lacking that we've been conditioned to believe we're in, and trusting that what we're thinking of isn't coming from a place of lacking, but rather coming from a place of like, I can do this. Can I trust that this is something that I can do? We do have a comment here from Myron. When feeding your ambitions, we often get blinded. At what points and at what times do you seek input from others? How large or small is the circle of confidants with whom you trust in sharing your passions? And not all great ideas scale up well. Some require small spaces to be successfully executed, or should I say scale up well quickly. And I love the example that you gave about the marbles. And we keep hearing people, we keep hearing this, oh, they're losing their marbles, or I've lost my marbles, or all of that. But like, if I'm physically imagining you holding all these marbles, it's not just taking mental space, it's taking physical space. It's taking physical space from, like, if you're taking this in and like, there's no space for a new idea, for a new inspiration to come and add to it. But most of the times we're really protective of whatever this idea, this ambition, this passion that we're trying to go through. And we don't want to give birth to it. We don't want to bring it out to the world until it's complete. And again, from the African perspective, is because there's this need for anything and everything we present to be perfect, because we already know what's being stacked against us. And because we are already we have this chip on our shoulders that whatever we come up will be that much more scrutinized from within ourselves, from within our families, before anything else. Like, this isn't ready to be out of the house. Like, you can't get out of your room without having changed your pajamas and looking like you're about to go on a runway somewhere. And it's the same thing. We do that stuff to our ideas. We carry this forward. So when you're carrying all these marbles and nature comes and gives you this, like, there's this like amazing shiny marble, and you really want to take it because you feel like this will connect a few things. How do you reach out to get it if you haven't cleared the space in your head?
Out with the old and in with the new, isn't that the saying? Because it's pretty much, man, I'm thinking about so many things, to your point, and also to Myron's point. And sometimes all that's coming to me right now is pay attention to your attention, and also paying attention to what voice is coming through. And also, if you get to the point where you dare to share the idea with somebody, and you're at the stage of looking for feedback or wanting some sort of an engagement about this idea, I think a lot of the times, being able to the capacity to take feedback and take that constructive feedback and go back to your vision board or your writing and kind of use that to fuel or better your idea. But a lot of the times we get stuck into using that as criticism and kind of looking more at the critical side and taking that as it's not good enough, it's not ready enough. See, like I told you this didn't have legs. And so instead of just kind of in listening to the voices that are coming through, instead of just like that needs to be just dismissed, is my point. And kind of clarifying that voice for you, and befriending that ambition so that it does speak something positive. If I'm listening to Myra and I'm listening to you critique my idea or this plan that I have, and I'm like, okay, all right, so I do need to expand a little bit more here. I do need to make the show a little bit shorter, for example, based on the feedback that I've gotten, or I do need to change the direction for how I'm putting together this project, rather than kind of taking that as self-sabotage, or turning these critical voices as self-sabotage. But in the power of writing, also to tie it back to planning, what helps when you pin down these ideas and clarifying your why as you're going through the process, and just going back to the original set that you wrote about this idea or ambition project or whatever, and kind of checking in with yourself as to where can I take that feedback and improvise my plan, rather than be limited or be constrained by some sort of an inadequacy or scarcity or something that I lack or don't have. And you're muted also, Dima.
You said something that here yesterday we had the Seed is Power rally with A Growing Culture and the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa, and one of the most powerful matriarchs in the food sovereignty movement and the seed sovereignty movement on the continent, and also just with global partners, is Mama Elizabeth Mfufo. And one thing she said, and you were saying like to go back to what started it all to help move forward. And one thing she said is go back for your future. Like to go back to know where your future is going, go back to the land, go back to where it all started, go back. And right now, as you're saying it, I'm seeing again in so many ways what going back looks like. We take going back because we've been conditioned that going back and back being backwards, and us taking what words mean to people.
Yeah.
And really taking a moment to see, what does this mean to me? And I want to tie in here what Julie's saying, because she said, I think we also need to look deep and reconcile with how the word ambition resonates to us. Deep inside, do we believe that being ambitious is something positive, or do we fear to be successful because it's something negative? And I really appreciate you for saying that, Julie. Yesterday, we were having a conversation on more personal levels, not necessarily like just some girlfriends, and saying, oh no, I want this, and for that to be ambition. But I realized that ambition was taken as something kind of negative, like you're being aggressively climbing the ladder. And when did that become the case? Because for me, ambition is like someone who's ambitious is someone who's always open and looking for growth.
Right.
Not necessarily reaching a particular point. But yeah.
I think, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I guess I wanted to say, how does, like, we know the power of writing. We've discussed in our first episode for this season the impact of planning and just kind of mapping things out so that we're able to trace it. But how does writing or penning it down actually declutter? How does it declutter our path to growth? How does it declutter your path to growth? How has it happened with you? How did penning it down do that?
Okay, so as you were talking about this, I started thinking about it, for me personally, where ambition was a negative thing for me is when I tied it to success. When I narrowly defined me being ambitious as successful in ass, whatever that means, right? Like, yeah, taking over the world. But in for me personally, career-wise, what that meant is I was on this journey to in my line of work in finance, and I've defined success as climbing this corporate ladder and getting to a certain point in my career where I'm able to make certain decisions, whether it's about creating certain programs within the finance space or with the program that I'm working on. And I realized that I adopted this capitalistic mode of thinking and way of thinking that is very much defined to, literally marrying success with the amount of work that I'm putting in and where I am in my career wise. So if I don't have this particular title of a job, or if I don't have this particular position and where I'm stacking in my career based on how many years I've been working. And I've defined it so narrowly for myself, and I pushed myself to get to that title and that position very quickly. And so when I wasn't getting there, and when I wasn't getting promoted, or I wasn't getting promoted in the way that I viewed success or where I wanted to go, then it did feel like a failure a little bit. It stung because
can we take a pause here? Can we take a pause here and recognize the irony of what you're saying? In that, if we're looking at ambition from the angle of openness to growth, openness to what that growth would look like, just pursuing that. But you're saying it wasn't what's in my head, but are we conscious? Are we paying attention to our attention in that, what? I have internalized a definition of ambition that is capitalistic, that is institutionalized, that is telling me what I am and am not capable of. It's like we don't really recognize that how we tap into our power, how we trust our power is directly linked to how we trust the universe, how we trust ourselves most and foremost. But it's like, are we paying attention to our definition of failure vis-a-vis what the world thinks failure and success is? And
Go ahead.
Sean, no, I'm just looking at these comments because I think we hit a good topic here, Ines. We have Shonda here joining us. Welcome, Shonda. Myron said a very important point that I would really love for us to take a second with.
Okay.
He said, I often fear knowledge of my ideas might lead some to actively sabotage my goals. That is my greatest concern. And do you want to take that? But think about that while I bring in one of Shonda's. I really like what she put here. For me, writing is like the first labor pain before the push of birthing a baby. It becomes a focal point of light to move towards.
I think I'm going to start with that because here's the thing. If it's my idea and if it's my goal, it is very much personal and particular to me. It's my voice that's coming through. So because I know, so this is how I think about it personally in kind of using that example of ambition and climbing this corporate ladder is, I think where I got into trouble is where I didn't write that or clarify that for myself to go back to and check in with myself along the journey. Because I found that once I've started this journey and kind of allowed other voices to come through, when I'm hearing different feedback from people about, I'm having conversations with people in the industry, some people who are seasoned, and they're sharing their stories about how they got there, or how they got this job, or how they got to this point of their career. And now I'm allowing all these ideas to influence my position. And then I'm taking all these different suggestions and voices without really clarifying or paying attention to which voice am I listening to really, because I'm absorbing so much and internalizing so much of my environment. And that's something that that has such a huge impact on us, whether it's like the voices from our upbringing, our parents kind of talking us into a particular career path and kind of just taking that into heart and going into that career path, and then taking into heart everybody else, perspectives and then losing my perspective in line of that. And I think that's back to Myron's point. It's when the self-sabotage came in, when I didn't write my ideas or I didn't crystallize that for myself to follow or really stick to my own voice. It's okay to kind of take in perspectives and feedback from other people. And actually I want that, because that vets my choice and decision and informs how I move a whole lot better. But in kind of sifting through all of that, it's, if you're like sifting flour or sifting through something, it's like, well, I got to make sure that whatever that's coming through out of, on the other side is actually representative of me, and it's true to myself, rather than just kind of being distracted or allowing myself to be sabotaged by being pulled into so many different directions, because it's people's perspectives of what they think success and ambitious people should look like, rather than defining it for myself and going back to my own writing and reminding myself that this is why I've started this journey, or this is why I started this project, and this is the actual reason.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to remember, it being your vision, it is coming from within you. So even if someone is trying to sabotage it, even if someone tries to hijack it and take it and make it into something that is their own, and there's no shortage of examples of that happening, on our personal, individual lives, or just what we're seeing in the world. Again, I have to go back to the seed and what we were talking about yesterday, is that you have this indigenous seed that has been passed to generations, generation upon generation. You have these indigenous farmers who have access to these seeds, but because someone decided to take it and breed it and rebreed it and make some new hybrid of it, and then put an intellectual property on it, so it kind of seals any varieties of that, even the original actual seed, it's there. There's no shortage of that. But it all goes back to you trusting where that vision came from in the first place. If you are friends with your ambition, if you are friends with your passion, if you are in peace and in unison with that voice that is inside you, then you will be guided at how to bring this, how to birth this, like Shonda very rightly said, and how we were talking about earlier. It's ready to come out, and we'll work with that, how it comes out. We'll see how we can grow it to fit that. But this fear of someone taking this idea ultimately becomes, in my opinion, the first shackle that you put for your own self. Because if you trust that whoever takes your idea will not be able to breathe life into it the way you are, because when you're breathing life into it, that breath is coming from the same spot that idea came from. It is completing it. It is fueling it. If it's someone else's, it might be great and successful. It might make them, in the definition of success that we are conditioned to believe, it might make them that successful, but it won't be your vision. It won't be your idea. It won't be what you had. The thing is, you have something very unique to offer. And I think trusting your ambition, being friends with having that conversation with your ambition, will constantly remind you of, this is something for you, out of you, from you. Trust it and follow it and see how it grows.
I think the only time where I would say, within reason, I wouldn't share an idea, or I would hold on to it tightly, it's in the very inception stages of the idea. Like I want to sit with, like personally for me, like I want to sit with the idea a little bit more to kind of figure out my voice of where I'm trying to take this idea, and then kind of open it up. Because
so the question becomes, do you sit with your idea in private or in public? And I don't mean like in space? I mean, are you sitting with your idea inside your head and staying there? Or are you taking those ideas out into your physical space and engaging with this idea? Are you pinning that idea down in a way that you're able to take it and then kind of create a different mosaic, have it be flexible, but it's manifesting in front of you in the physical, and it's no longer just in your head?
So I'm trying to get better with that. But one way that I found that's actually really helpful for me is just the Post-its. Like we were talking about that. So I just write at any point, at any time on just Post-its. And I have all these Post-its, like sometimes they can just be too many of them. But it helps me kind of, and sometimes I literally have it in front of me on my desk. So like as I'm doing work and I look up, I can actually see the Post-its in front of me. Visually, that helps me in kind of seeing where certain ideas have started, or a certain trail of thought where I was going with this particular writing or piece or whatever. And just literally sometimes the act of just looking up and at this idea while I'm working kinds of inspires things in the background, as I'm like, it's a slow churn or a slow burn in the background where I'm like, okay, I'm thinking about it a little bit. I'm gonna take a break from it, do something else, come back to it and be like, okay, something else came through. Now we can work on this. And once it's done, I just take that Post-it down. Like it's over. Like now I can make space for literally another Post-it to put up on the wall. But that works for me. And
for me, it's kind of along the same lines, but on the flip side, it's like how I see it grow, right? So I've put that central idea, that central thought that's been floating around here, and I've pinned it down. And every time there's something new, and I'll just like add it, and then I see it grow in front of me. I can't necessarily explain what's in my head to everyone, but to me, I start seeing the reflection of what's in my head. I start seeing it in the physical. And that's what happened with Africa Week. Africa Week 2020 started with one Post-it. And in 1 week, we had more than 44,000 people in one space. One Post-it. It started with one Post-it that I just put down. This is what I want to see happen. I have no idea how it's going to happen, but this is what I want to see happen. And then it grows, and then it grows, and then it grows. And you're part of it. You're breathing life into it, but you're able to track it back, because, for example, in looking for partners, be like, oh, we need to get commercials, we need to this, but commercials means you're going to pay someone. It means there's going to be money involved. And if we're saying this is all a labor of love, then it's not tracking back to that first Post-it, then it has no space here, maybe later down the line. But right now, this is what I want to do. So it kind of defined it in a way, but it was structured flexibility. Another thing it does is that what we were talking about is that it kind of repositions where your idea is from your frontal lobe to your subconscious. And when it seeps into your subconscious, because you keep seeing it, whether it's every time you look up from your desk, or, if you have these Post-its on your mirror in the bathroom or around your house, subconsciously it starts seeping into your brain. Like right now, you don't stop and think that the sky is blue and the grass is green. You don't, because it's something you've absorbed. It's subconsciously there. And the same thing for me happens with these ideas.
So you're telling me that you had, so let's just walk me through this. So you had a Post-it about Africa Week, and you just wrote it down, and then you had 44,000 to be exact followers right after that, at the inception of that idea.
Not followers. No, not followers, but people who, my idea wasn't to have followers. I wasn't trying to have followers for Africa Week 2020. I just wanted a space where our family, our collective, everyone of African ancestry had a space to come and celebrate and honor and learn about who we are and what we're doing, because we're doing amazing stuff, and it's nowhere we could see. It's not, because that's not what the main narrative out there is. What's out there is that we are lacking. What's out there is that we are just always struggling to just like come out for air. We're not hearing about the Kenyan brother who created this glove that speaks Like you just do the sign language and the glove is speaking for you. We're not hearing about the Senegalese sisters in the lab that actually came up with the first COVID test because, you know, the UK came and they partnered and now it's coming out as a British thing. We're not hearing about these things. And so my idea with the Africa Week 2020 is just, you know what, I just need our family to come together. Like, I just need to know that we love each other. We're here.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't an idea to have followers. If you go to Africa Week 2020 now, I think we have like 1,000 likes. And that's nowhere if you go and look at the insights of that 1 week, because we had 6 hours of continuous non-stop live streaming of all things Africa Rising, from cooking to spirituality, to agriculture, to art, to everything. We are doing everything because we are everything. But to be able to see that, it started with one post-it, and really it was to celebrate and honor Africa Liberation Day. And I was like, if we're celebrating all things Africa Rising, we can't fit all of that in one day. And so the post-it started growing. I was like, okay, maybe we do it for 2 days. And I was like, nope, we still have a lot more stuff, because, and just to recognize that the first Africa Week 2020 was myself and Alexandra, who's the Tata of Africa Week 2020, although now she's and I'm very excited for her to have gone onto her own journey. But in helping me birth this, everyone who presented or showed up in that first week of Africa Week 2020 was directly connected to either myself or Alexandra. So 2 people were able to create 120 hours worth of content to bring together more than 44,000 people. And it all started with that one post-it that said, the Black family reunion. That's it. That was the idea. That was the ambition. That was the passion. That was the goal. That was the objective. And it started there. And then I was like, oh, we can't even, everything isn't fitting in 2 days. We need 3. It's not fitting in 3 days. 4. And it ended up being 6 days of complete madness where no one was sleeping and everyone was crashing, but it was beautiful. The feedback we were getting is just like, we felt like we went on a journey to visit our family without even leaving our house, without even leaving our space. One post-it. You pinned it down, you pen it down. I got it. I had to change certain things. I had to take some of the ideas out. I wanted more youth involved. I wanted kids to start telling stories. We couldn't get that. And that was fine. We work with what we have. But I have it.
You define success for you as people coming together. So it was the focus was more about the journey and what you're getting out of it.
Yeah.
More so than like, I need to reach X amount of followers. You know, it's the point is that you've defined success for what's relevant for you, not necessarily on some narrow, arbitrary benchmark of how success is defined by society or in that space, whether it's a numbers game or whether you need to be here, you know, in your growth, or you need to be here in terms of how many people you reach and so forth. But it's really about the connections that you made, the relationships that you were able to build, and the power of the collective coming together. That's, to me, immeasurable, in quantifiable numbers, that is.
And I think a big part of it was that I didn't care how people would take it. I didn't care how people will think, because almost anyone I spoke to about this idea just told me, you're flat out crazy, and just like, no, we don't have the capacity to just like, there's too many things. You need to just like narrow it down and just like stick to one theme, we're not one theme, we're not one topic. That's not what that first post-it was about. So you can take that idea, you can have a panel about that one theme, you can have a conversation about that one topic. This space is for all topics. This space is for everything, because we are everything. I didn't have that fear that someone will come and sabotage it. I didn't have that. I wasn't doing it for people's reaction. I was doing it for people's action. What do you want to share? What do you want to learn about? What do you want to bring to this family reunion?
So just literally you were stubborn about making this idea work the way that you wanted it to work.
It was like this is when you and I sit and talk about something, and we trust that what's coming and what's being generated between us. It's not that it's stubborn, it's alive. And when you're alive, that's your purpose. You want to keep being alive. You want life around you. And it has to be stemming from, at least for me, it has to be stemming from love. It has to be stemming from truth. And the truth is stubborn because you can't tell the truth to hide. You can't hide the truth. You can't just like, we're not dealing with this here. No, because it's loud, it's there. The truth is always alive. The truth is always around us. Question is, how consistently are we seeking it? How consistently are we working towards it?
Consistency is key. And with that, Dima, that was really good. I don't think I could follow that with really yeah, that was, I mean, case in point. If I can just drop the mic here and just close off the live, I think that did it for me. I don't know about anybody else. Do we have any comments, reactions before we wrap up and let people know what our next episode is?
I think start by telling them already when the next episode is so that they can pin it. They can pen it down to pin it down and join us. But in the meantime, please write in the comments, share this video, tell us how you engage with your ambition. And if your ambition were a friend, if you were to discuss with ambition how to birth that ambition and bring it to life, what would it say? How are you doing it? How are you bringing your dreams, your ambition, your truth into life?
Yes. How are you doing that? All right. So these are heavy questions to think about today. Because it requires some deep reflection, right? Like I can tell you how I think about my ambition, and as I'm sitting through thinking about it right now, I'm like, yeah, I need to change certain things about how I relate to self. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, there is that. I'm glad that you're giving me this.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Myron. Alex, thank you. Torre del Viejo, thank you. Mejdi, Bahadin, Nardos, hello. Sandra, action is how we start bringing it to life. Yes, Sandra. Okay, when's our next episode, Inas? Because we're at 52 minutes and we said we will never cross 60 until it's one of these ranting rainbow episodes for special occasions. And this wasn't a ranting rainbow.
Yes. So Shonda said, chills, how encouraging, queen. It blossomed. So that was an indirect response for you. So I want to make sure I say that. So our next episode is July 11th. We're going to be live again at 12 p.m. Eastern, just around this time when we started the live. I'm excited about it. I don't know what we're going to talk about just yet.
Give us ideas. Ask some questions. If you realize all our episodes are questions, ask more questions. Put your questions in there. Inspire us. A big shout out to Myron for inspiring our last episode with that question. Challenge was accepted. I hope we delivered. So please put your questions in there. Tag us if you haven't, and put it on a post and say, okay, I'd like to ask this. Maybe we'll bring you in to put in your feedback.
Yes, let's do that. Please give us ideas. We have so many different kind of things in our idea bank that we can always pull some ideas out and start having conversations, but it'll be a lot more meaningful if it's already tying into something that we're discussing and because people are interested. So let's try that. Mark your calendars for our next episode. July.
I almost wrote June, and it kind of like struck me that June is almost done. I don't know how.
Oh, June is over.
On that note, June is over, as is this episode. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your feedback. Ines, thank you for holding us accountable.
Thank you for inspiring us, Dima. It's always a pleasure. And I look forward to our next episode and see everybody then.
Yes.